We're hoping we can
I'll
find
try to speak up as loud as I can. The speakers, regular speakers for this building are not in working order right now, so we've gone to an improvised speaker. So I hope that all of you can hear well enough. I'm Carroll Precure. If you don't know me, most of you do. I'm the Beta County Republican Chairman, and I want to welcome you here. I thank you for coming out. I know that it's a difficult time of day for a lot of people to make it out during this time for something like this, but we want to thank you, each and every one of you, for showing up, and we appreciate that. To begin with, we want to start the meeting with a prayer, and one of our precinct chairs, Mark Morton, will lead that, and then we will have the pledges to the flags after that.
Father, we are thankful for this day of life that you blessed us with. Lord, we're thankful for this wonderful free country that you blessed us with. We acknowledge that you had your hand in its formation, and Father, we just pray that you'll keep us ever mindful of that, empower us to preserve it for our children, grandchildren. Father, we thank you for this time where we can gather today, gather to support Lieutenant Colonel West. We thank you for this man. We thank you for his service to our nation. And pray that you'll bless this time that we have today with you, that all that is said is pleasing in your sight. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now if you remain standing, we are going to honor the flag of the greatest state in history.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. And then I know that you came to hear a particular person, but I'm going to take a little bit of time to do a little bit of housekeeping. At this time, I would like to recognize some of the Beta County elected officials for the Republican Party. If you aren't aware, in 2018, during the midterm election, to my knowledge, for the first time in the history of Beta County, we are 100% Republican on elected officials in Beta County. We've got a lot of them over here. I've got our county judge, Sherry Harrison, Precinct 1 Commissioner, Gary Don Garton, Precinct 2 Commissioner, Mike Slayton, Precinct 3 Commissioner, Cody Black, and Precinct 4 Commissioner is our very own Mr. Daniels. Our County Attorney, Jackie Claiborne. County Clerk, Robin, is she here? District Clerk, Becky?
She's out today.
She's not here either. Rodney Baker is not here. Our county, let's see, we've got our county constable, Kent Wiley. I saw him earlier. Kent. And our sheriff, Richard Wills. I believe that's the only one. Maria, is she here? Okay. All right. I don't think I left anyone out. If I did, stand up. Okay. All right. We do have several that have filed for election in this election cycle. Precinct 1 Commissioner Gary Don Garton refiled. Cody Black, Precinct 3 refiled. Our County Attorney Jackie Claiborne has. Our Sheriff Richard Wills, and our County Constable Kent Wiley. We also have a contested race in the Sheriff's race. Benny Parker is running against Sheriff Wills. Benny, would you stand up? Okay, if you will. Afterwards, be sure and meet these guys, talk to them if you want to on that, on their races. The other thing I want to mention is that the thing that we learned in 2018 was that Texas was not safe from the other party. I think that our eyes were opened. The one thing that we need to realize in rural Texas is that when Ted Cruz won the Senate race by about 250,000 votes, I represent the 35 upper counties in the Panhandle of Texas with the Texas County Chairman's Association. And in those 35 counties, we had a surplus right at 80,000 votes for Ted Cruz. That is 1/3 of the surplus of the votes that went to him in the state of Texas. Rural Texas, West Texas, the Panhandle, and East Texas saved Texas from going blue in that Senate race. We face the same dilemma coming up in 2020, but it's in a presidential race. We in the rural communities have got to step up, and we've got to get more people out to vote. We only had about 30% of the registered voters come out to vote in some of the counties in the Panhandle of Texas. And if we would have had 80%, Ted Cruz would have had another 80,000 votes going to his side in that race. So it is very, very important that we step up and get away from our complacency when it comes to getting out the vote. I've got 3 precinct chairs here today, Mark Morton, Kirk Lewis, and Christine Gonzalez. I'm looking for a precinct chair for precinct 3, so if any of you that live in precinct 3 would like to be a precinct chairman, please get in contact with me and we will get you on board. But my county precinct chairs and I, we've been discussing things in the growth of Bailey County for the Republican Party. We realize that the electorate, for the most part, they don't realize the difference between a democracy and a constitutional republic. They're not coming out with a real understanding of the difference between a capitalist economic system and a socialist economic system. These are kids that are being educated in our schools, educated in the colleges, adults. The interest is not there, and we feel like we need to step up and help to educate the voter to realize what they're voting for. They're voting for their freedom, for the future of this country, and we need to get that message out. And that message is going to take money, and it's going to take people willing to get out and beat the pavement and help us out in that endeavor. And so the cards that you picked up in the back, they've got some boxes that I would like for you to check. And we're not going to overburden anyone. We realize that everyone has, we're having to support that socialist side with our hard work and funds. So we need you out there working, but of course we do need to put out effort to educate the common electorate so that we can have a voting base that will vote for the positive future of this country. And going along with that, I know that Colonel West is running for the state chairmanship of the Republican Party of Texas. He has been asked on many occasions, and I was at one of those occasions, why he would choose this office when so many of us thought he ought to be running for the Senate race this year.
Okay.
But he, I'm sure, will explain that whenever he gets up and talks to you today. So without any further ado, and any other introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Colonel Allen West. With this?
Good. Good. Hey, it's a pleasure and honor. Trying to sabotage me already. Nancy Pelosi pay you off? Hey, it's a pleasure and honor to be out here with each and every one of you. Let me start out by answering that question, because that was the important thing that I had to look at. Some people, I live in Texas, Congressional District 32. And that was the congressional district that Pete Sessions lost to Colin Albright.
And also a lot of people say, hey, why don't you go and challenge John Cornyn? But then someone came to me and said, why don't you consider something, maybe it's not as prominent, maybe it's not as important, but the chairmanship of the Republican Party, Texas. So what does a good man do? A good man gets on his knees, he prays, and he says, Lord, you got to give me the wisdom and discernment like you did with Solomon. And so one morning when I'm out doing one of those old man PT runs, I don't run those 7-minute miles like I used to, a little bit slower, so God can really focus on talking to me. It came to me, the chairmanship race. Now why? Look, I've been there to the United States House of Representatives. I got the t-shirt. Sure, I can go back and be one of 435, but you're not going to be able to have an impact. Sure, I could go and probably become a senator from the great state of Texas and be the junior senator from Texas. But what impact are you going to immediately have? And if I were to become another congressman or a senator once again, what good would it be if I sat and watched the state of Texas go the same direction if we've seen Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia? The fight for the United States of America, the ideological battle that we're in, is here in Texas. And the other side has focused on Texas. And let me tell you something. How many of you served in the United States Armed Forces? Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen. Please stand up so we can thank you for your service. There's a saying that we have in the military, that we move to the sound of the guns. The guns are sounding here in Texas. When the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Tom Perez, says Texas is a battleground state, the guns are sounding here. When Hillary Clinton comes down to speak in Houston, Harris County for their Democratic dinner and says we're going to flip the Texas State House, the guns are sounding here. When Joe Biden comes in and criticizes the state of Texas for passing a law that enables congregation members to be able to defend themselves in the church, the guns are sounding here. When Robert Francis O'Rourke and Julian Castro speak about open borders and punishing our churches for not succumbing to the religion of progressive socialism, the guns are sounding here. When Michael Bloomberg, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders are already running commercial ads in Texas, the guns are sounding here. This is where the fight is. And I want you to do, this is your homework assignment, and I gave this to the Lubbock County Republicans last night. Tonight, go back and look at the 2016 electoral map breakdown by county. Because now we're going to talk about why you're important out here. When you look at that electoral breakdown, look at a state like Oregon. You'll see red all over the place, except for 2 spots, Portland and Eugene. We all know the University of Oregon is there in Eugene. When you go to the state of Washington, you'll see red all over the place except for 1 spot, King County, Seattle and Tacoma. When you look at the state of Nevada, you'll see red all over the place except for 2 spots, Las Vegas, Clark County, and Reno. When you look at Arizona, red all over the place except for 2 spots, Tucson and Phoenix, both major universities. When you look at Colorado, not too long ago, Colorado was a solid red state. You see red all over the place except for 2 spots, Denver and Boulder. And recently this summer, I was out at the 101st Airborne Reunion in Colorado Springs, now starting to creep into Colorado Springs. When you look at what happened in November of 2019 in the state of Virginia, red all over the place, except for a couple of major counties, Fairfax and Prince William, all right there across from Washington, D.C. along the Potomac. And now look at what the people in the state of Virginia are having to do. The state where Patrick Henry once stood up and said, give me liberty or give me death. Now they're standing up and having to fight for the liberty to be able to defend themselves because of just 2 counties. Stacey Abrams, in my birth state of Atlanta, Georgia, never left the Atlanta metropolitan area to campaign for governor. And she came within 2.3% of winning that gubernatorial race. Christmas, I was with my older brother down in Southwest Georgia. They never saw Stacey Abrams. In the state of Texas, you want to talk about Ted Cruz? The largest red county in the state of Texas is Tarrant County. Ted Cruz didn't win Tarrant County. The guns are sounding right here in this state. And if we lose the state of Texas, we lose the United States of America. The state of Texas is going to pick up 3 congressional districts. If we don't understand that we must keep the progressive socialist left from overtaking the Texas State House, if they get the opportunity to redraw the maps in Texas, the political landscape of Texas will be changed for at least 10 years, which is the next census and redistricting, maybe even more so than that. And when you think about Robert Francis O'Rourke, who brought in $80 million in his Senate race into the state of Texas from outside of Texas primarily, he has already said his focus is on flipping the Texas State House. There's a reason why Julian Castro has stepped down out of his presidential race, and within 24, 48 hours, what did he do? He came out and pledged his support to Elizabeth Warren. Because Julian Castro believes that he will be on that ticket as a vice presidential nominee, and he will put Texas into play. Texas has 254 counties. It's a lot. But if you think about it, 8 to 10 counties can end up dictating the political atmosphere of Texas. Denton County, Dallas County, Collin County, Austin and Travis County, San Antonio, Bexar County, Houston, Harris County, El Paso County, and down along the Rio Grande Valley. We don't want to see the exact same thing that happened in Virginia happen in Texas. But the major population centers is where the progressive socialist left is focusing. 6.7 million Texans are registered to vote and don't vote. 4.1 million Texans aren't even registered to vote. How many people here call themselves born-again Christians? Okay? Out of all of you that raised your hand, national statistics say that only 24% of you are going to vote. And then we ask ourselves why we're in the mess that we're in. Carroll just told you, only 30% out in West Texas came out to vote. We got to have everybody. In Dallas, for the last mayoral election, only 8% came out to vote. In Dallas. And now you see why you have the type of leadership that we have in Dallas and the crime that is creeping up and the failures of the city council. This is what we got to focus on. We have to focus on our counties. We have to focus down into our city councils. We have to focus on our county elected officials. We have to focus on our school board. If you haven't been paying attention, the Austin Independent School District late last year voted 5-0 unanimously to introduce a sex education curriculum to 3rd through 8th graders that, if you have seen it, it's pornographic. It includes pictures. It's teaching our kids how to have anal sex. Now that's happening in Texas. That's happening in Austin, Texas. That's happening in the place that's supposed to be the capital of Texas that resembles more San Francisco than it does the capital of Texas. Let me tell you something, folks. The guns are sounding right here. I don't need to be in Washington, D.C. The soldier goes right to the front lines. And Texas is on the front lines. This is what we have to do. We have to be strong in our messaging. We have to have our legislative priorities that we understand, and we have to pass those legislative priorities. We cannot allow the progressive socialist left to come in here to the great state of Texas and understand for the first time, California is going to lose a congressional district because of all the population that they have bled out, as well as Illinois, New York, and New Jersey. And where are these people coming to? Some of them are good people, don't get me wrong. But many of them are coming here, and they're bringing the exact same failed philosophy and ideology. I call that the Locust Affair. When you chew up fertile grounds in one place, and then you go look for another place to chew up the fertile grounds. And you continue to do so. And if you think about what is coming out of California, that is overrun Oregon, overrun Washington, overrun Nevada, overrun Arizona, New Mexico, Montana. Now they're focusing on Idaho, but mostly they want Texas. And if we out here in West Texas and East Texas don't go all in, it's going to be a tough road ahead of us in November 2020. That's why it's so important that as a chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, I empower the county chairman. I empower the precinct. Because you all are the ones that are the boots on the ground. Anyone that has ever been in the military will tell you that the generals may come up with a brilliant plan, but now today, generals don't get out there and fight those plans. And that's what we need our county chairman and our precinct chairman to be able to do. And the other thing we have to start doing is we got to start training up and raising a new generation of strong constitutional conservative candidates. I was talking a little earlier today. It's like in baseball, you have a farm team system, right? You have single A, double A, triple A, you have the major leagues. That's what we got to do. That's why I tell people the most important election in the United States of America, in Texas, wherever, is school board. Because when you start thinking about all the goofy stuff that our kids are being taught, instead of being taught history, instead of being taught civics, instead of being taught science, technology, math, the ability to communicate, they're being indoctrinated. And sooner or later, that is going to creep out here into West Texas as well. Because that's just what locusts do. So what's our challenge going into November 2020? We have to be educated and informed as voters. What's my pledge to each and every one of you is to make sure we're all on one sheet of music. I have to tell you, if there's one thing that I have always admired about the other side, from when I was in Congress, when we have those 1 to 3 minute speeches on the House floor, every single one of those chuckleheads will come in there and say the same thing. Y'all seen it, you know it. You look at the Sunday morning shows, they all come out and they're saying the exact same doggone thing. We come out, we're saying this over here, we're saying that over there, we're saying that over there, because we're not fighting like this. Let me give you a metaphor. Nobody wins in the circular firing squad. Let me say that again. Nobody wins in the circular firing squad. Unless it's the guy that is opposite from the person that can't shoot straight. But everyone gets hit. We spend more time shooting at ourselves than going and attacking the real ideological enemy to the United States of America. Let me close, and then I want to just open up for your questions, because I want to have a great conversation. We're going into a new decade. And I think it's an important thing that we need to remind folks of what happened in the last decade. In the last decade, there was a country that was one of the most prosperous nations in this hemisphere. A country that had more oil and gas reserves than even Saudi Arabia. A country that had an incredible standard of living. A country that I wish that I could have gone on vacation in. That country is called Venezuela. And at the beginning of the last decade, with Hugo Chavez, the socialist dictator, when he stepped in and took control, one of the first things Chavez did was he banned private gun ownership in order to curtail gun violence. Where are you hearing that being said today? That's the exact same thing that Governor Northam is saying to the people of Virginia. That he needs to ban ownership of certain weapons in order to curtail gun violence. And he's willing to use the National Guard to do exactly that, to confiscate weapons. In Venezuela today, Nicolas Maduro has the colectivos, the armed gangs that go around and execute people. If you didn't see the video from back in October last year, the Venezuelan military is running over people that are in the streets protesting because they're starving to death. They're dying. They just want to be able to live. And if you don't think the exact same thing can happen in the United States of America over the course of the next decade, if the left gets control of redistricting, if the left takes over the White House, if the left continues to win all of these judicial positions, like the 56 judgeships that we lost in the state of Texas in November 2018, it could happen. Because if you fail to remember, in February of 2009, Newsweek magazine ran a cover that said, "We're all socialists now." And now your children and your grandchildren, some think that socialism is a cool and hip thing. They believe that everything should be given to them free. If we are going to maintain and hold on to Texas so that we can hold on to this nation, the responsibility starts with each and every one of us. It starts in our homes, with our children and grandchildren. When our children and grandchildren came home for Christmas and Thanksgiving break, from college and university, how many of you allowed them to tell you what they did and what they did not want to talk about? How many of you allowed your child and your grandchild to say that my professor knows more and knows better than you? If I had said that to my mom and dad coming back from the University of Tennessee, I wouldn't be speaking here today. Or at least I'd have really good dentures because all my teeth would have been knocked out. But what has changed in our homes? We don't understand that we have to be the adult. What has changed in our churches? Think about the fact that a Christian banker by the name of Jack Phillips had to go before the Supreme Court of the United States of America because of his very first liberty. The very first thing in the Bill of Rights, which is the freedom of religion. Yet he had to go and defend that before a Supreme Court because some people said that we will force you to succumb to our ideological agenda which defines our religion. There's a reason why the left is doing everything they can to remove God from the marketplace. You can't have the 10 Commandments. You can't pray. You can't have your faith. You can have a freedom of worship, and they will define where you can worship. Because if they can get to the point where God is not smart enough, omnipotent enough, omnipresent enough to be able to say that there's Adam and Eve, there's male and female, there's 65 different genders. You can identify with whatever you want. God is not in control of the weather and the environment. It's man-made. The forest fires that are burning in Australia is because of man-made. Well, it is, because of some arsonists. But it has nothing to do with climate change. But the whole point, if the Creator God could not get the inalienable rights that are endowed to you correct, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, then we, as man, are the ones that determine your life, your liberty, and we will redefine what is happiness. This is an ideological battle, an ideological civil war that we're in. If we lose it in Texas, we lose it for America. I challenge to each and every one of you, 30% ain't good enough on a battlefield. If a soldier only gives 30% on the battlefield, he's going to get somebody else killed. It's all about 100%. It's time for you to put on the full armor of God. It's time for you to understand what God told Joshua, to be strong and of good courage, for the Lord thy God shall not leave you nor forsake you. It's time for you to understand if God be for you, who can be against you? It's time for you to understand, as it says in Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. That's power. That's why 56 men that signed their names to a document called the Declaration of Independence. That's why they could pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. That's why 185 could stand there for 13 days on the ramparts of the Alamo so that we can be sitting here today. And we only want to give 30%. They gave 110%. What more can we do to honor that commitment and legacy? It starts with each and every one of us. It starts out here in West Texas, it starts in East Texas, and we got to push back on the I-35 corridor and tell them that you're not going to come in this house with this mess. What do I want to do as chairman of the Republican Party of Texas? I want to hold Texas. I want to win. I want these folks to know that that mess out of California is not acceptable here in the Lone Star State. So God bless you all. What are your questions?
Why did you move to Texas?
Well, you know, like all good Southern boys, Georgia, Tennesseans, you know, we all came here to fight for liberty. You know, like Jim Bowie, Mirabeau, Mark, Sam Houston, you know. I was here, my last duty assignment in the United States military was Fort Hood, Texas. And when I retired from the military, I told my wife, wherever you want to go. Her dad was career military. She got stupid and married me, so we had drug her all over the world. And so she asked to go to South Florida. She's originally from Jamaica. But 5 years ago, I got the opportunity to come back to Texas to be a part of a public policy organization, and I said yes. And so here we are, and I ain't leaving. Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us your feelings about what's happening with our president regarding the Soleimani horrible terrorist killing?
Okay.
And the assault from the left.
My assessment, because it ain't about my feelings, it's my assessment. The Democrats are digging themselves in a horrible hole. When they are siding with Iranian terrorism instead of the United States of America, you know, I call that the politics of hypocrisy. Why do I call it the politics of hypocrisy? Because we all celebrate with the killing for Osama bin Laden. But the Iranians have now learned that Barack Obama and Jimmy Carter don't sit in the White House right now. And General Qasem Soleimani was responsible for 18 to 20% of the death and the maiming of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines in Iraq. The explosive force penetrator, IEDs, that he helped to develop and made sure was supplied to the terrorists. You can go all the way back to 1983 with the Beirut barracks bombing, where 243 Marines and sailors lost their lives. Hezbollah. That's why Soleimani was in Lebanon, coordinating with Hezbollah. The most recent attacks by the Shiite paramilitary force in Iraq was coordinated and planned by Soleimani and resulted in the loss of the life of a United States contractor. Those same Shiite militias were spray painting Soleimani's name on our embassy. Soleimani has the blood of Americans on his hands. And there comes a point in time when we say, we're not going to allow you to disrespect, disregard, murder our men and women in combat and be able to go around with impunity. They had a window. They took that window and they took him out. He is a terrorist leader. The Quds Force is a designated terrorist organization. But what the Democrats are doing, as they talk in their little echo chamber, they're setting themselves up for failure, because who would want to back them, have a Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, or Joe Biden in the White House? Because that means we'll go back to the policy of sending palletized billions of dollars of cash to the #1 sponsor of Islamic terrorism. Iran is in a conundrum right now. Because not since Ronald Reagan in April of 1988 with Operation Praying Mantis has the United States struck back at them like we just did. We sent a message. I've been in Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan, and in certain places in the world, there's only two things that folks understand: strength and might. When you want to talk, that's weakness. You want to compromise, that's weakness. When you want to appease and acquiesce, that's weakness. When you smack them in the face, They can come out, they can make all these boisterous claims, about, your military is a terrorist organization. This is going to be the mother of all battles or whatever. Bring it. There's a whole lot of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines that want to get at Iran. We're not talking about occupying Iran. We don't care anything. President Trump does not care anything about sending U.S. forces into Iran. But what he will do is he will go after every single bit of capability and capacity that they have. It's the exact same thing that Ronald Reagan did in April of 1988 when we sunk 6 Iranian naval vessels, killed 60 Iranian sailors, destroyed 2 of their oil platforms because an Iranian mine hit a U.S. naval vessel. It ain't about being proportional. When my mom and daddy used to beat me, it wasn't about proportionate beating. It was totally disproportionate. They had a belt, I didn't have a damn thing. And that's what this is all about. And you know what they used to tell me? The beatings will continue until your attitude adjusts. And that's the exact same thing we need to tell the Iranians. The Democrats, folks, there's no way we should allow them to be in charge of this nation. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Minority population seems to be fertile ground for us to recruit from the Republican Party. As party chair, if you get the position, what would be your focus in plan on doing that, being able to gain more?
As party chair, what would I want to do to gain more of the minority vote? You're looking at a guy that was born in 1961 in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, to a blacks-only hospital. But yet I rose to become a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army Command, a battalion in combat, and become a United States representative. It's about telling them that they can be a victor and not be a victim. See, the thing is that blacks and the Hispanic community is different conservative in nature. They believe in the Judeo-Christian faith heritage. They're strong families. They believe in individual responsibility. They believe in having a quality education that leads to equality of opportunity, not outcomes. The Hispanic bid on small business entrepreneurship. And the most Medal of Honor winners in the history of the United States of America, they're Hispanic. So service to the country. My dad served in World War II, my older brother in Vietnam. What we have to do is start talking to people about their principles and values. Now, the other thing is this. I love college football. I don't know how many people here love college football, but I'm about to go into withdrawals because college football is going to end next month. But growing up down south, we all watched the University of Alabama. We all watched Bear Bryant. And this is how the University of Alabama played football. First down, they pick up 3 yards. Second down, they pick up 4 yards. Third down, they pick up another 3 yards. Nothing glamorous, nothing exciting. But what did they get? First down. They get another set of downs. They pick up 4 yards. They pick up 3 yards. Then they get another. First down. And the next thing you know, they march down the field and then they score a touchdown. That's called incrementalism. You get to the goal of getting that touchdown, but you don't try to come out there and get it all at once. That's what the progressive socialist left has done in the minority communities, especially the black communities, since the Great Society programs of Lyndon Baines Johnson. They have incrementally destroyed the black community. They have broken down the family. They have destroyed the community, the education system, small business entrepreneurship, and now they're scoring touchdowns because they have them as complete victims. But what do we try to do on our side? We try to go out there first down, we drop back, we try to throw it all the way down the field, get a touchdown. Okay, now second down and 10. So we try to throw a pass and pick up 15 yards. Incomplete. Now it's third down and 10. Then we try to run the ball and pick up maybe 2 yards, now we got to punt. And then we get discouraged. You're not going to win the entire black community back in one long pass. You got to incrementally win them back. You got to go out and tell the black community that the Republican Party of Texas was founded on July the 4th of 1867 by 150 blacks. One of the early chairmen of the Republican Party of Texas was a black businessman from the Houston, Galveston area by the name of Norris Wright Cooney, 1884 to 1898. That's powerful history. But sadly, a lot of us Republicans don't know that. In 1854, the Republican Party was founded for one issue. What was that one issue? Enslavement. The first Congressional Black Caucus, it wasn't Maxine Waters and Elijah Cummings. The first Congressional Black Caucus was 7 Republican members. My predecessor as a Black Republican member of Congress in the state of Florida was Josiah T. Wallace, who served from 1873 to 1876. You got to establish that relationship. You got to establish that sense of history. And then you have to continue to have that relationship. You can't show up in Black History Month, eat some fried chicken, have some collard greens, some cornbread, you go to church, you try to clap and sing, and you look spastic because you can't get your rhythm together. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, like Hillary Clinton show up saying, I don't feel no ways tight. I don't talk like that. I'll go out there and tell people you carry a little thing of hot sauce in your pocket, but Hillary Clinton ain't never carried no hot sauce. What you have to do is you have to stay engaged with them every single day. You have to engage with them on policy. One of the great policies that we can promote that will undercut the other side is educational freedom, school choice, educational opportunity zones in these failed urban education districts. Because the other side can't talk about it because the teachers union will kill them. That's what we have to do. But we fail to do that. We want to get out there and say, well, we can't get all the blacks to vote for us, so it's not worth our effort. All you need is anything over 10%. You just destroy the other side. The Hispanic community, you get over 55%, you just destroy the other side. But we got to go in, we got to do the message. And where do we see the greatest amount of failure for the progressive socialist left?
Inner cities?
Inner cities, urban centers. Gun violence? Chicago. Gun violence? Detroit. Gun violence? Baltimore. Philadelphia. Washington, D.C. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Dallas, Houston, Memphis. Who controls those cities? Is there a black or Hispanic church out here in Bailey County? Huh? Who said, okay, is there or is there not? Someone said yes. Okay, there is. When was the last time y'all had a church-to-church fellowship? Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. How many times does Thanksgiving happen every year? How many times? And then you expect them to know who you are. See what I'm saying? When I was growing up in Atlanta, I went to 4th Street United Methodist Church. We had a partnership with the white United Methodist Church in Decatur, Georgia. Every month, either their pastor, their congregation, their choir came to our church, or we went out to their church. And what do church people do after church is over? They eat. And when they eat, what do they do in between bites? They visit, they talk. That's how you make a difference. That's how you break it down. And I will tell you this, I will be going into those communities, and I will be talking about principles and values, and I will use myself as an example of being a victor and not a victim. But I need you all to do the exact same thing out here in Bailey County. Next question.
How do you fight the fake media?
How do you fight the fake media? Let me tell you how you fight the fake media. You know, back when Star Trek was on, William Shatner, they used to say, you know, use your communications device. Remember, they used to flip it open down. Now we got all kind of fancy. You know, we don't have encyclopedias anymore. Remember the encyclopedia you guys come up? You got all the information you need right here. This is how you fight it. This is my challenge to each and every one of you. Instead of sending out the video of the cute little baby, you know, doing some type of trick, or the cat that is, you know, playing the piano or something like that, send out something that has to do with the importance of Texas. Send out something that says only 24% of Christians nationally vote, and educate people. Write this down. 5 people. Find 5 people that don't think and believe as you do. And get 3. Now, last time I checked, you know, I did go to school at the University of Tennessee. We were maybe not that good at math. We're getting better at college football. But 60%, that's 60%. Chairman, what's 60% in the political race? What do they call it? No, what do they call it? Landslide. 60% is a landslide. You know where we get the 60%? We get the 60% with us. 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. And it doesn't have to be the 5 people that you know out here in Bailey County. There's some friends that y'all know. I was talking to one young man today, he was talking about his sister. Fell in love with that Robert Francis O'Rourke guy, that Bob Frank dude. Okay? But you gotta keep working on your relatives. In 2008, when I told my relatives, I ain't voting for no Barack Obama. I said, I've read this guy's book, I understand what he's about. Man, they called me everything but a child of God. They told me I couldn't come to any family reunions or any of that stuff. And I said, fine, I didn't like you cooking anyhow. But you know what happened 4 years later? They said you were right. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. A powerful current of water can change the shape of a rock. Thomas Jefferson once said, in matters of style, swim with the current. But in matters of principle, stand like a rock. I need you to stand like a rock. I need you to challenge the other side. If they call your name, don't care. You shouldn't care. Keep going. Keep pressing. Because eventually, you'll make a difference. But don't self-censor yourself. It starts with each and every one of us, in our homes, in our communities, in our churches. Get 3 out of 5, 60%, and then we have a landslide. And you send a message to the other side. In 2012, when Mitt Romney ran for president, he won Texas by 16 points. 4 years later, Donald Trump won Texas by 9 points. 2 years later, Ted Cruz only won Texas by 2.3%. 30% don't get it on the ballot. Next question. Yes, sir.
This might be related to what you're talking about, but I just read this morning that I think it's 70% of all new people that have moved to Texas in the last year or two have all moved to either counties surrounding Austin, Dallas, Houston, or San Antonio. So obviously the suburbs are where more and more votes are congregating. How do, you talk about wanting to hold Texas, how do we appeal or how do we stem the tide of the trend of the suburbs going more and more blue to turning them back?
Well, absolutely. Well, I think the most important thing is we have to, you know, I spoke earlier at the Rotary that there should be some billboards up all over Texas. Billboards should say, welcome to Texas. Why are you here? And the other type of billboards should say, welcome to Texas. Why did you leave where you were? And we've got to follow that up. One of the things that I would love to do is to be able to go in and talk to the employees of Toyota North America who picked up their corporate headquarters and moved out of California to Collin County, Texas. Because I want them to understand, why did your corporate leadership decide that California was not a good place for them to continue to do business? And they come here to Texas. Now, if you can understand why they made that decision, why are you going out and voting and supporting to undermine that decision that they made? We don't do a good job. Then the other thing is that we have to start looking at those precincts that are out there in these suburban areas and these urban areas. We got to be strategic. Kind of like a drone strike. You got to strategically target these precincts and start picking up X amount of percentage here, there, whatever. I'm not worried about trying to win all of Dallas County. But I know if I get X amount of percentage of Dallas County or Travis County or Bexar County, and you guys are showing up 100% out here, got a landslide. Got a landslide. But we got to show up and we got to do it. You know, in the military, you don't win on defense, folks. Yeah, maybe sometimes you get a pick six, and it's real cool. But pick sixes don't happen all the time. You win on offense. And everything that we believe in, everything that we stand for, all of these principles and values that have made this the greatest nation the world has ever known. America is energy independent because of who? Texas. West Texas. Because of hydraulic fracturing. But yet we're going to allow some chucklehead like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to come into Texas at the South by Southwest Festival and say that we're going to get rid of the oil and gas industry in the next 10 years. We should have run her out of town. Where was our our response? Where was our voice? When Nancy Pelosi comes here and stands up and says, there's no crisis at the border, where was our voice? We should have run her out of town.
That's right.
Texas is the #1 state in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. Dallas and Houston are the top 2 cities in the #1 state for human and sex trafficking. And we're going to have people talking about open borders. Man, that's a great message to go out and say to the mothers in these suburban areas, is that what you want for your daughters? To be in a state that's #1 for human and sex trafficking? So why are you voting for these people that believe in open borders? That's how specific we have to be with issues. Jack Wilson, 71-year-old firearms instructor. He nailed that guy one shot, 15, 20-yard shot. And now we want to have people to say we don't have the right to be able to defend ourselves. That dog don't hunt. And that's what we got to do. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
You know, I watch a lot of TV, and on the TV all the time, what do most of the Democrat candidates talk about? This big boom and this big thing that's going on in the United States is not reaching the middle class. All of them in unison come out and talk about that. How many Republicans talk about each and every middle class person that's working has got at least a $5,000 pay increase in their budget? You don't hear it.
And remember what I said? It's like every one of them get a chip.
Right.
It's implanted in the base of their skull, and they all say the same thing, and we never are on the same message point.
But they blow their horn to beat the system down, and we don't have the people out there blowing their horn to pump it up. You got a few Republicans that's out there talking about it, but most of them, hey, they think it's wrong, inhumane and wrong to get up there and talk about what you know is right, and these people are preaching 24/7 about a lie that they know is wrong.
Yep, I know. This is why I will promise you this. As the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, every single week, I will give you a talking point. I will give you your message point. But now it's incumbent upon you to do what? Get it out there, spread it, and hammer it, and hammer it, and hammer it. And if it's successful, we'll do it again the following week. But we all have to be on the same sheet of music. You know what I admire? You know, the Spartans are my favorite warrior class. And you know what I admire about the Spartans and how the ancient Greeks fought? They looked at their shields. They created an impenetrable front called a phalanx. But what was the purpose of that shield? The purpose of that shield was not to protect that individual Spartan warrior. It was to protect the warrior to his left. And because his spear was up here. And the warrior to his right was making sure that he was protected by that shield. That's how we got to fight. If we go out there and try to fight individually, this county and that county, guess what happens? Guess what happened to the Tea Party movement? The first time we ever had a grassroots constitutional conservative movement that was powerful, that was effective, they targeted it, they separated, they divided, they conquered. Because so many of the Tea Party groups said, well, I'm with this Tea Party over here, and we're independent, we don't talk to this other Tea Party over there. So you didn't lock your shields, and you got picked off. That's how we got to fight. I don't want to get all of Texas constitutional conservatives together. Notice I didn't say Republicans. I said constitutional conservatives, because it's about principles and values and a belief system. If we do that, we got a landslide that's going to happen in November 2020. Yes, ma'am.
Can you just give us a couple of talking points now that we can start?
The most important talking point I want you to start off with is that the Republican Party is focused on making victors. The Democrats make victims. That's exactly what he's talking about back there. Everything that you hear come in the mouth of the Democrats is about victims. They don't survive. Progressive socialism, Marxism, communism does not survive unless it has victims, because they need to have people that are dependent upon them. And when you are dependent, that means you're an economic slave. You're not economically empowered. And I want you to start using that tough language. It's either the individual or it's the collective. It's either economic empowerment or economic enslavement. It's either you become a victor or you become a victor. It's either what I call the equality of opportunity that says a kid born in 1961 in the inner city of Georgia in a blacks-only hospital can grow up and become a congressional representative that represented the highest per capita income zip code in the United States of America. Rush Limbaugh was my constituent. You know how strong a message that is? But that's what I want you to start saying. You don't have to be a victim. Your children don't have to be victims. Let's get this thing right. Next question. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Looking toward the future, what do you think is the most effective program or way to reach young students when they reach the age of having a smartphone and social media and all these different things? What do you think is the most effective?
You got to get them before that. You've got to start talking to your child. Look, the Austin Independent School District is going to start teaching pornography to children at third grade. So you got to start immediately, as soon as they can comprehend and understand. These are the lessons my mother taught me. A man must stand for something or else he'll fall for anything. Self-esteem only comes from doing esteemable things. The measure of a man is not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. You've got to start teaching them those lessons now. You got to tell them that they're not going to be in participation trophies in my house. Okay? And you got to tell them this very simple lesson, that free is not equal freedom. There's a reason why the kids in Hong Kong are in the street carrying our flag, singing the national anthem. And they don't want to live under the exact same tyranny that our kids are believing to accept. That's what you also got to do. You got to protect your child. There are teachers, there are principals, there are administrators that will do everything they can to inculcate their principles and values to your child. So when you have the opportunity, you got to sit down with your child, you got to ask them at the dinner table. Take the time to be with your child. Because when you think about it, who spends more time per day with your child or your grandchild? You or a teacher or a professor. So you got to take the time to say, what did you learn today? What did the teacher tell you today? I will tell you in Collin County, there are schools that sit there and tell the students to watch CNN and write a report on what they saw on CNN. That's social studies. Now, if your kid comes home and says, the teacher told me to watch Wolf Blitzer on CNN today or whatever, you should immediately go to that school and say, I don't want you telling my kid to watch CNN. If you can't teach my child, then I'm taking my child to another school.
Yeah.
You cannot allow your child to be indoctrinated. So don't wait until they get the cell phone or whatever, because they're getting bombarded with all this stuff way before then. You got to start right off. You know what my parents used to do with me before we had dinner? I had to pick a story out of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. This is one story, and I had to give a 3 to 5 minute summary of it before I could eat. And I used to like eating. But how many of us used to ask that as a child? Okay? That's what you got to do. My dad taught me statistics and financial numbers and everything by teaching me how to go over the box scores of the Atlanta Braves baseball games. Hank Aaron went 2 for 5 in a baseball game. What was his batting percentage? That's what I was doing. He found out what I was interested in, and he used that. And the next thing you know, I was reading the business section and understanding stocks and investments and things of that nature. And that's why I came to love math, because my dad took the time finding how to make math relevant to something that I liked, which was Atlanta Braves baseball. So that's what you got to do. Okay? And look, it's time for y'all to get back out there, as I told the previous group, go to work, because Bernie Sanders needs y'all to be able to have enough money so he can go out there and give folks all this free stuff. But again, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. This won't be the first and last time that you see me. But understand that the guns are sounding right here. And it's time that we all move to the sound of the guns. 30% don't win on the battlefield. You got to give 100%. You got to be all in. You must understand that at your final resting spot, when people walk by and see your headstone, they got to know that you gave your all. Let me remind you of the words that are left at the Battle of Thermopylae, that site, 480 BC, where the Spartans stood against the incredible invading horde of the Persians. When even Leonidas knew that they had been betrayed by a fellow Greek, who told them about a past where they could come around and encircle the Spartans and the Thespians, he knew that they were all going to be slaughtered to a man. He chose one Spartan warrior, and he told him to take the message back to Sparta. And those words are engraved on a stone there in Greece today. It says, "Go tell the Spartans and strangers passing by that here, obedient to their laws, we lie." The laws of the Spartans is no retreat, no surrender. William Barrett Travis, February 24th, 1836, in the letter that he wrote, he said, "No retreat and no surrender. Victory or death." Teach that to your kids so that we can hold on to Texas. God bless you all.
Thank you for coming to Lady County. Don't make it the last time.
No, man.
You're welcome anytime.
Next time I won't be in a suit.
I want to say one thing I forgot about earlier. Back in the back, got Dan Rogers, came all the way from Amarillo. He's the Potter County Republican Chairman, and they've got a lot of merchandise there. That money is going to go part of it to Lady County and the rest of it part of it to Potter County. He's graciously agreed to do that, so be sure and find something there. There's a lot of Trump memorabilia, a lot of Trump campaign stuff that you can take with you. Again, turn your cards in. This is a battle that we're ready to undertake as the Lady County Republican Party. We will be calling on you to put your name in there. We hope that you will. Also, any funding we need, we're going to need to get some things out, some education tools. We want to get those out. Start hitting the young kids early and teach them the basics. Again, thank you for coming. Have a good day and God bless you.